And welcome back to Panic Butter. If this is your first time joining us, hit that subscribe button. Today we're getting into coincidence. What is a coincidence? Have we seen any? I've had some. Have you had any? Isn't that a coincidence? What do you know? What do you say? Hit that subscribe button and let's go. Bring it on.
No, it's stunning to monitor the media's lack of interest in the whole Maui story. I've been in this business for 30 years. I'm stunned, but I'm not surprised. The incident seems to be the story here, right? But the true story, the media knows it is not allowed to tell. Is it a coincidence that the Maui police chief is the same man who was in charge in Las Vegas during that massacre that killed 58 people? Is it a coincidence that the Maui property, owned by million and billionaires, wasn't touched by the flames while homes of the locals all burned?
What she fails to also mention is how the media hasn't even once interviewed a grieving parent. Not a single parent looking for their children. Not a single interview with a child. Not a single interview with the schools.
Was it a coincidence that the largest system of outdoor emergency sirens in the world never made a sound as the fire devoured Lahaina? Was it a coincidence that at the same time, very same time, all the water was turned off? Was it a coincidence that police were ordered to block off streets and to funnel all the cars trying to escape? Think about this coincidence. That governor also signed an emergency proclamation on July 17th, 3 weeks before the fire, about housing of all things. Is it a coincidence that the government put up a black fence around Lahaina, or that the FAA grounded all drones from flying over the affected areas? Is it a coincidence that since at least 2011 there have been plans to make Maui the first smart city run by 100% renewable energy? And that it must be a coincidence then that the locals whose homes did not burn are now being evicted from their property. And of course, a total coincidence that all the fact checkers who are checking these facts, who say everything I just told you is just a coincidence, are also owned and run by...
There's a lot to unpack there, isn't there? Well, you could probably sit on that for a week or two. Study, watch, and still in the end it is the same. Something happened. Well, in a lot of cases it's pretty obvious. Everybody has their thoughts. What a coincidence. We are into it. Let's move on to the next one. Here we go.
Crazy coincidences you won't believe actually happened, Part 10. In 1945, Tsutomu Yamaguchi was in Hiroshima on a business trip, and on the day he was supposed to leave, the US dropped their first atomic bomb. He had been 2 miles from where the bomb was dropped, but miraculously he survived with minor injuries. He returned home to his wife and infant son in Nagasaki, where he went to work just 3 days later. As he was describing his experience to his supervisor, the US dropped their second bomb, this time on Nagasaki. Again, he was just 2 miles from the explosion, but this time he survived without any injuries. He ended up living to the age of 93 and died of stomach cancer in 2010.
Oh, wow. Wow, is all you can say there, huh? What a coincidence. Guy had to be the luckiest guy on the planet at the time. What do you know? That would have definitely been something to write about for your whole life. Happened more than once. And it happened to him. He survived. Lived it out. Probably talked about it a lot. What a coincidence. Let's move on.
Insane Coincidences, Part 53. In 2012, a British man bought 5 amateur paintings for a mere $5 at a Las Vegas garage sale. When he decided to reframe one of them, he found a piece of paper behind it that turned out to contain an original sketch by Andy Warhol. His signature was also etched into the back, giving it a value of at least $2 million. In the 1960s, a radio station organized a bonfire to burn a bunch of Beatles records after the band claimed they were more popular than Jesus. The next day, the station's broadcast tower was struck by lightning, damaging their equipment and sending the news director to the hospital. American acrobat Jennifer Bricker was born in 1987 with no legs and was therefore put up for adoption by her parents. From a young age, she always wanted to become a gymnast and completely idolized American Olympian Dominique Moceanu. In a shocking turn of events, when Jennifer turned 16, she discovered that her idol was actually her biological sister.
Huh. What? Holy smokes. Yeah. What do you say to that? Yeah, you never know what you're gonna see. Coincidences, well, everything today is a coincidence. Isn't that a coincidence? Let's check it out and move on to the next one. See exactly what a coincidence looks like. Ready? Let's go.
Crazy coincidences you won't believe actually happened, Part 8. JFK and Abraham Lincoln were elected 100 years apart. Both were succeeded by Southern vice presidents named Johnson, who were both born 100 years apart. Kennedy had a secretary named Lincoln, and Lincoln had a secretary named Kennedy. Lincoln was shot in a theater, and his assassin was cornered in a warehouse. Kennedy was shot from a warehouse, and his assassin was captured in a theater. Lincoln was shot in Ford's theater, and Kennedy was shot in a Ford Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln's son was once waiting for a train when he accidentally fell onto the track. Before he was harmed, Lincoln was saved by a man he recognized as Edwin Booth. Edwin Booth was a famous actor and brother of John Wilkes Booth, who within a couple of years would assassinate Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, that's crazy. Man, imagine that. In your family, what would you do when you grew up and saw that? What would others do? What a coincidence. Let's unpack that and move on to the next one. Here we go. Hit that subscribe button. Let's do it.
Crazy coincidences. Abraham Lincoln and JFK lived eerily similar lives. Both were elected to Congress in the year 46, then to presidency in the year 60. Both married in their 30s to women in their 20s. Both lost a son while living at the White House, with 21 letters in their full name with 7 letters in each word. Both were shot in the head by Southerners on a Friday in the presence of their wives. Lincoln in a Ford theater and Kennedy in a Ford car. Each assassin's full name is 3 words with 15 letters in total. They were both succeeded by Southerners with the last name Johnson that had the birth year of 08. An engaged couple was looking at photos to put together a slideshow for their wedding. The woman pulled out a picture of herself at Disney World over 20 years ago and set it to the side. When her fiancé looked at it, he was shocked. In the background, he recognized his father pushing him in a stroller as a baby. Not only did they discover that they had been in the same place at the same time, but somebody actually snapped a picture of the moment they were passing each other. The crazy part about this is that at the time, the couple lived in 2 completely separate countries and would not meet until many years later. She was quoted saying, "I was happy that he proposed to me before this so that I knew it was because he loved me, not because he saw the picture and thought it was meant to be." A woman that was somewhat drunk was on her way to a Halloween party when all of a sudden a fight breaks out and she gets stabbed. She didn't realize that she got stabbed until a guy walked up to her and told her that he could see a muscle coming out of her side and that she should call 911. A couple of years later, she went to get a tattoo of a knife under the scar of where she got stabbed. When she sat down with the tattoo artist, she realized it was the same guy that told her to call 911. 2 women walked into an office to complain that they had received the same social security number, assumingly due to a computer error. But what really happened is that they had the same name, Patricia Ann Campbell. They were both born on March 13th, 1941. Their fathers were both named Robert Campbell. Both were married in 1959 with 2 children the exact same ages. Both worked as bookkeepers, had an interest in oil painting, and studied cosmetics in school. While on a college tour, a family was discussing the Solo Star Wars movie that had recently come out and talking about what they thought of it. Then suddenly, they noticed that Harrison Ford was on the college tour with them. A woman's friends were looking for her on Twitter by searching her full name, Morgan Knight. They all ended up following a separate Morgan Knight on Twitter that looked exactly like the original Morgan Knight. A woman bought wine gums, which made her think about her ex of over 10 years ago because it was his favorite candy. Later that day, she decided to Google him. It was his funeral that day. This nurse found out that her colleague doctor was actually a premature baby that she cared for 28 years previously. These 2 dogs with one of each eye found each other in the grocery store. The guy on the left was in his future wife's family picture 7 years before they met. This married couple in China discovered that they appeared in the same photo as teenagers before they had ever met. A woman injured her chin at dinner and received this fortune cookie right after. Time heals all wounds. Keep your chin up. This was an Uber driver with his passenger looking nearly identical. This pigeon pooped a portrait of itself on a leaf. Follow for more crazy coincidences.
Yeah. You thought coincidences didn't happen. That's amazing stuff. I don't care what anybody says. That is absolutely incredible. Some of the things that were done and said in that are just amazing. Let's see where else we go. Where is this going to take us now? Up next. Here we go.
The craziest coincidences in history. Number 1. Violet Jessop was a ship nurse on the 3 sister ships, the Titanic, the Britannic, and the Olympic. She was on board when the Olympic collided with a warship and almost sank, when the Titanic hit an iceberg and sank, and when the Titanic hit an underwater mine and also sank. She survived all 3. In 2016, a woman bought a $10 scratcher ticket in order to show her husband how much of a waste lottery tickets are. Her ticket ended up being worth $1 million. World War I began with the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria. The license plate of the car he was in said A111118. The war ended on the 11th of November, 1918. The last person who died constructing the Hoover Dam was the son of the first person who died constructing the Hoover Dam. They both died on December the 20th in different years. 4 more?
Holy smokes. Well, if that didn't make you think, I don't know what does. But if you ever go to apply for a job and your parent who is deceased did the same exact job, maybe you should not partake in that job. Stay away, stay alive. Is that a coincidence or what? Well, we have some more coming up for you. Let's get on to the next one. Here we go. Enjoy.
Craziest real-life coincidences of all time. There's no question that when it comes to making movies, a lot of special effects and costumes are used. Oftentimes, movies will go through tons and tons of props and costumes before they find the ones that they'll actually use. The same can be said for the 1939 all-time classic film, The Wizard of Oz. Except one of the costumes used in this movie is a part of an insane coincidence. So this is actor Frank Morgan, and he played a total of 5 different characters in The Wizard of Oz movie, including the actual wizard himself. He also played a character in the movie by the name of Professor Marvel, who wore this outfit on screen. The crew from The Wizard of Oz wanted Professor Marvel's character to be wearing an old used coat, and they found this one at a local thrift store. Upon inspecting the coat, the name of the original owner was printed on the inside of it, and that man's name was Frank L. Baum, the man who wrote The Wizard of Oz story.
Yeah. This gets crazier and crazier. What are your thoughts? Have you ever had a coincidence? If so, what was it? How did it affect you? Leave a comment down below, let me know. See where it takes us. I've had a few. Everybody has. What were they for you? Bring it on. Next up.
Here's another shocking story that sounds fake but is 100% real. Now this story is so crazy that it might just be a miracle. This man is Walter Klempel, who's a reverend at a church in Nebraska, and you won't believe how he survived this. So Walter was in charge of getting the church ready every day. He'd go in, turn on the furnace for heat, then go home for a bit until it was time to come back for choir practice. But one day something insane happened. Right before he was about to leave, his daughter spilled food all over her dress. As she went to get changed, Walter realized they were gonna be late. This is when a series of very strange things started happening. Just 5 minutes after Walter, his daughter, and the rest of the choir were supposed to be at the church mysteriously exploded. Police Police went to search for bodies when they found something shocking. There are no bodies anywhere. Turns out everyone who was supposed to be there happened to be late that day. Their car broke down in the middle of the street. She took a nap and overslept. The list goes on, but every single person was coincidentally 5 minutes late on that specific day. And what's even crazier is, the explosion was caused by a gas leak in the furnace. Which means when Walter went into the church to turn on the furnace the first time, the explosion could have happened right next to him and didn't. Some people call this story a miracle, but comment below and let me know what you think. And follow for more stories.
Wow, that's pretty heavy duty. Yeah, what a coincidence. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. Well, has anything ever happened to you? Have you ever had a coincidence? Of incredible things. We're going to move on to the next one and see how it looks here in the amazing coincidences. Bring it on.
1 in a million coincidences that you won't believe happened. Part 2. This little girl was born with the exact same white patch of hair as her mother. A man was taking a picture of a plane crossing over a rainbow when it got struck by lightning at the exact same time. In 2009, this teacher was giving a lecture on how to not get kidnapped in Mexico. Immediately after, he got kidnapped in Mexico. A woman who was snorkeling saw this fish wearing her gold wedding ring, but when she tried to get her ring back, it swam away. In the 1970s, a giant sperm whale was blown up with dynamite, and chunks of its flesh were launched 700 feet away. And one of the pieces destroyed a brand new car that was purchased during a promotion called Get a Whale of a Deal.
That's kind of ironic. Yeah, I think that falls under ironic and coincidence. And just plain unlucky. Wouldn't want to be there, wouldn't want to have had that, but it happened. Isn't that a coincidence? Let's see where we're at next. This is pretty good, it's pretty interesting. A lot of different coincidences. Let's see where we're at next. Here we go.
These are once-in-a-lifetime coincidences. This blind kid found a four-leaf clover all by himself. Congratulations to him. This bird landed on a page about itself thinking it was his friend. Adorable. This kid took a picture inside a helicopter and 20 years later he ended up being the pilot for the exact same helicopter. Incredible. This picture was taken at the perfect moment because it looks like a fire breather was kissing a fire dragon. While this marathon runner was driving home, he noticed that his shirt, race number, and finishing time were the exact same. Hopefully he bought a lottery ticket that day.
Yeah, hopefully he did. Yeah, I know you would probably do it. I would also. I'd be heading to the store. Look around the store, see if the same numbers exist. Again. You gotta ride that wave while it's going. Let's see where we're at next. This is pretty good. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't and join us. We're new, we're growing, and this is fun. Bring it on.
Okay, this is insane. We collect antique postcards like this one, which is from 1908, and it is written to Dear Winkle. This is the church in town. I know you're always going to church, and it's from his mum. So that's nice, but the great thing is that that church is just outside our shop, and our shop also sells postcards, local postcards, so that's great. But the really mad thing is that up here it says the cross on the postcard is the shop where I bought these postcards. If you look, there's the cross, and that cross is actually outside our shop, but our shop is not 108 years old, it's 14 years old. What about that for a coincidence?
Ah, that's pretty wild. That just shows you something else was there. Ooh, maybe that's for a different video. Was there a building there? Maybe he wasn't there. The structure was probably there though. Or a structure. Let's move on and see where we're at next. This is pretty interesting. hit that subscribe button and join us. Bring it on.
Bizarre coincidence in history. A few years ago, a man named Paul was paying for some groceries when he noticed something strange. One of his bills had the name Esther on it, which is the name of his girlfriend. So he decided not to pay with it and put it back in his pocket. Later that night, he wrapped up the bill to give it to his girlfriend as a joke. The next week, they went on a date and he gave it to her, and when she opened it, she was shocked. She quickly put it away and Paul was confused, but he let it slide. 2 years later, Paul and Esther got married. Then one day, when they were packing up to move into their new place, Paul saw the bill and decided to ask her about it. It turns out it was her who wrote her name on the bill before paying with it, hoping that one day the bill would return to her, and if it did, that would be the person who she marries. Since they had only been dating for a few weeks when she was given the bill, she didn't want to tell Paul the story in case it scared him away.
Holy smokes, that put a smile on your face, huh? That's an incredible coincidence. One like anybody would be welcoming into their life. That was fantastic. That was a coincidence that came up on the positive end of amazing. Let's see how many more amazing things we can come up with here. Bring it on. Let's see what is next. In the coincidence line. Here we go.
The story behind this NBA player's jersey number is the craziest coincidence in history. Everything started when Kyrie Irving was born at 111, then was accidentally named after the number 11. Not only is K the 11th letter in the alphabet, Kyrie Irving's exactly 11 letters. The coincidences get even wilder in basketball though, because not only did Kyrie's dad wear the number 11 when he played, as Kyrie grew up, he also wore the number 11 until his 11th game in college where he got injured. But Kyrie declared for the NBA anyways, and the number followed him into the pros, where he became pick 1 of round 1 in the 2011 draft. Now being a Cavalier, here's where Kyrie wasn't allowed to wear number 11 because he was already retired for another legendary Cavs player, so he just added the ones together to be number 2. And even though he became a star while playing in that number, he eventually demanded a trade, made his way to the Celtics where he changed back to number 11, and ironically on March 11th, while wearing the number 11, he scored his 11,000th career point. So that's why.
Yeah, that's pretty coincidental. Somebody's really pulling out all the stops there to put together the coincidences, connect the dots. It's always interesting. It's always great when somebody else does it, and then we can just sit back and go, wow, what a coincidence. I wanted to watch it, they put it together. Let's go. Next up.
This man is W.T. Stead, a luminary Victorian-era journalist and newspaper editor. He's famous for spearheading a series of newspaper campaigns that made English law change the age of consent from 13 to 16. But he's also famous for another reason, though not in a way that he would have expected. Back in 1886, Stead wrote and published a short story called How the Mail Steamer Went Down in the Mid-Atlantic by a Survivor. It was a cautionary tale about a fictional steamboat that collided with another boat in the Mid-Atlantic and sank, with many of the passengers aboard the steamer drowning in the ocean as a result. The final line of the story is an editor's note from W.T. Stead himself, who stated that the story, whilst fictional, should serve as a cautionary tale for any boats put out to sea that do not have enough lifeboats for all passengers and crew aboard. It's a strange coincidence then that 26 years later after writing this story, W.T. Stead would die during the sinking of the RMS Titanic, having been unable to secure a space in the limited lifeboats for himself. And if this grim foreshadowing of his own fate through his work was not enough, it was also said that W.T. Stead famously used to tell friends and family that the manner in which he expected to die was by drowning.
Holy smokes, that's incredible. Predict your own demise, and then voluntarily go to it. That's pretty incredible. Would you do it? Is that a coincidence? You wrote it years ahead of time and then went ahead and did it. Wow. This is good. Let's see what's up next.
The strangest coincidence in history. The Menai Strait is a dangerous waterway where a lot of ship accidents occur. 3 ships in particular sank on the same day, December 5th, but in different years, 1664, 1785, in 1820, and in every case, there was only one survivor, and every time that survivor's name was Hugh Williams.
Oh yeah. See, they dug deep to put those coincidences together for us. Thank you for bringing those to us. Let's get some more. This is pretty cool. Next up, hit that subscribe button. Is that a coincidence that I said that? Or not? Let's go.
Previous coincidences that are hard to believe. A peculiar dream about the number 7 jolted a man from his sleep, imprinting the digit into his mind. Throughout the day, the number then reappeared in unsettling instances. A surprising $7 discount at a local store, an unusual 7 missed calls on his phone, and a random bus numbered 7 crossing his path. Intrigued and slightly unnerved by the reoccurring pattern, he bought a lottery ticket choosing 7 as his fortunate digit. His heart then nearly stopped when he discovered he'd won the jackpot, his dream turning into an exhilarating reality. However, his joy turned into a bone-chilling dread when he stumbled upon a grim pattern. The last 7 winners had all mysteriously met their end within 7 days of their victory. So it's not only in movies. Inheriting an ornate but non-functional grandfather clock from her grandmother, a woman made numerous attempts to revive the timepiece, its hands perpetually stuck at 2:36. One evening, a heart-shattering phone call informed her of her mother's unexpected passing, the time of death eerily coinciding with the time on the dormant clock, 2:36. But then the very next morning, the once motionless clock came to life, ticking away, its hands moving past the chilling hour of 2:36. This blood-curdling synchronization between the clock and her mother's untimely departure turned the timepiece into a haunting memorial of her loss. Upon moving into an antiquated house, a couple stumbled upon a dusty old diary hidden in the attic, a forgotten relic from a woman who lived there in the 1800s. The intriguing find prompted them to delve into its pages, uncovering the tales of the woman's mystifying encounters with an unseen entity residing in that very attic. Now, late into the night, as they absorbed the chilling tales, they were startled by the sudden sound of soft footsteps echoing from above, a sound the house had never emitted before. The uncanny coincidence of reading about a spectral presence and possibly experiencing one themselves shrouded the house in a haunting, uneasy silence. A vivid dream about a horrific car accident at a certain city crossroad shook a man to his core. The striking images of a red sedan and a black pickup truck colliding etched into his mind. He tried to shake off the nightmare, but exactly a week later, while driving down the same crossroad, his heart froze as he witnessed the exact collision from his dream playing out before his eyes. The chilling coincidence of his dream turning into a reality haunted him so profoundly that he felt compelled to avoid that crossroad for the rest of his life. At a local fair, a group of friends decided to challenge a mirror maze, one friend claiming with an eerie confidence that she had dreamt of the maze and could navigate it flawlessly. Dismissing her claim as playful banter, they were stunned when she guided them through the maze without a single wrong turn, her dream turning into a shocking reality. The chilling adventure reached its climax, though, when she abruptly froze before a mirror, her face turning deathly pale before she collapsed unconscious. The mirror she had been fixated upon was the same she had described in her dream, where she had seen her own reflection age horrifyingly in just a few seconds. A school teacher was haunted by a reoccurring dream in which she found herself teaching a specific lesson to a group of students, every detail vividly imprinted on her mind. Years later, she found herself living the dream, standing in a classroom that mirrored her dream down to the last detail, delivering the same lesson to eerily familiar faces. As she took in the uncanny resemblance, a chilling wave of déjà vu washed over her, leaving her pondering the unsettling possibility of her dreams being some sort of portal into the future. On the night of her final performance, a ballerina received an anonymous gift, a pair of exquisitely fitting ballet shoes, which she then wore on stage. Unbeknownst to her, the shoes were actually once owned by a renowned ballerina who tragically died right after her final performance. The performance was mesmerizing, her graceful movements captivating the audience, her shoes gliding flawlessly on the stage. However, her triumph was short-lived, as she, like the previous owner of the shoes, met a tragic end soon after her curtain call. The eerie coincidence of the ballet shoes and the identical fates of each wearer cast a haunting shadow over the ballet company for years to come.
Wow, that's pretty cool. And coincidental. Was it? Is it? What do you think? Are you still here? How many coincidences do you have? What's the biggest one that you can think of that happened in your life? Or have you had many? Let's see. Here's some more. Bring 'em on.
How did we not notice this on the show Married with Children?
Excuse me, aren't you Bruce Jenner?
And now please welcome Mr. Bruce Jenner.
When they go out to dinner, it's all of them. The mom, the kids, and their grandma, Bruce Jenner. You know, it's wacky.
I can't believe that came out of Bruce Jenner's vagina.
Bruce Jenner is a man.
No, Brian. That's what the press would have you believe, but he's not. Bruce Jenner is a woman.
Excuse me, aren't you Bruce Jenner?
Yeah. Coincidental or just absolutely hilarious? I think a little bit of both. More on the funny side though. Yeah, that made me laugh. Made you laugh too, huh? Whenever you see something like that, it's incredible. You always laugh. You always want to see more. So we have more right here. Let's go. Those are big. If those are coincidences, they're probably the largest ones that are out there. What do you think they look like? Is that a coincidence? Let's see. We're almost done here. Where are we going to go next? Let's see. Bring it on. Let's see the next coincidence. Here we go.
Crazy Coincidences Part 1. In the comics and movies, Spider-Man grew up on 20 Ingram Street. It turns out that's a real address, and living at 20 Ingram Street is the Parkers, Andrew and Suzanne, along with their 2 daughters. While exploring the ocean, a marine biologist would come across SpongeBob and Patrick. In 1957, Richie Ashburn would be batting and hit a foul ball, which would strike a woman in the face and break her nose. While he was still batting, they would roll her away. He would hit another foul ball, which would hit her in the knee.
Wow. Another bunch of coincidences. What do you know? Well, did you leave it? Did you tell me? Where do you stand on these coincidences? Do you have any? I've had a few. This is pretty cool. Try to keep them as random as we can and find a few more. Bring them on. Let's see where we're at now. Is that a coincidence or not? Next.
New series, Weird Coincidences Part 1. Trigger warning, my opinion and this turby twist. If you don't know the story of Adam and Eve, here's a quick summary. Eve takes a bite of the forbidden fruit from the tree of knowledge and basically gets Adam and her exiled and brings evil to the world. She was conned into this by a snake or devil or something. Even though no one knows what the forbidden fruit was, it's represented as an apple due to the Latin word malus, which not only means apple but also evil. Now speed up a gajillion years. The guy behind me is Alan Turing. He's basically the father of computer science. I can't get into his history. It's super interesting. Look it up for yourself. He sadly ended his life due to cyanide poisoning. When doctors arrived at the scene of his death, there was a half-bitten apple next to him. I find it kind of unnerving that his death was suspected to be from a poisoned apple. It's like he took too much from the tree of knowledge that is science or something, but guess what this event inspired? Yeah, yup, we've all bitten the apple now.
Alright, there you go. Thanks for joining us here at Panic Butter. I hope you made it this far. If you did, hit that subscribe button and join us for the next time. We'll see ya.